Earth learned about the Galactic Concord by accident. It did not arrive with a greeting or a warning. It did not come with bright lights or alien ships in the sky. It came as a quiet stream of data, hidden inside a deep space signal that human scientists almost ignored. For weeks, the signal sat in a server at a listening station on the far side of the moon. It looked like background noise, the kind that filled the universe with static. But one junior analyst noticed something strange. The noise repeated, not perfectly, but with purpose. When the pattern was finally decoded, the room fell silent. It was not a message meant for Earth. It was a conversation, thousands of voices, layered in complex mathematics and physics, discussing trade routes, star systems, energy laws, and borders that humans had never heard of. It spoke of civilizations older than human history, of shared rules, and of a vast organization that called itself the Galactic Concord. Humanity was not mentioned at first. Many leaders believed it was a mistake. Surely a group powerful enough to span the galaxy would know about Earth. Humans had been broadcasting radio waves for centuries. They had launched probes beyond their system. They had mapped nearby stars and searched for life with endless patience. But as more of the data was translated, the truth became clear. The Galactic Concord knew about Earth, and it had chosen to exclude it. The Concord had cataloged humanity under a simple label: developing, volatile, non-participant. There were notes attached. Humans were described as creative but unstable, curious but reckless, capable of cooperation, yet prone to internal conflict. Their history showed rapid progress followed by self-inflicted disasters, wars, collapses, recoveries, and more wars. The conclusion was calm and final. Humanity is not ready. The discovery spread across Earth faster than any news before it. Governments held emergency meetings. Scientists argued. Philosophers wrote essays overnight. Ordinary people watched the sky with new eyes, realizing they were no longer alone and that they had never been invited. Some were angry. Some were afraid. Many felt something worse, and either they felt small. For generations, humans had wondered if they mattered in the universe. Now they had an answer from the stars. It was not the one they hoped for. World leaders gathered in a secure global council, linked across continents and time zones. The question before them was simple, but the weight of it was heavy. What do you do when the universe decides you are not worth talking to? Some demanded a response, a message sent back through the same channels, a declaration that humanity existed, that it would not be ignored. Others urged caution. The Concord was vast and ancient. It had rules and power humans did not understand. Drawing attention might invite danger. The debate lasted days. Then a quiet voice changed. Everything had belonged to an old systems engineer named Mara Levin. She had spent her life fixing things that failed: power grids after storms, satellites after collisions, cities after disasters. She did not speak often in political rooms, but when she did, people listened. They didn't attack us, she said. They didn't threaten us. They didn't even insult us. Few leaders nodded. They looked at our history, Mara continued, and made a choice. We don't like that choice, but shouting won't change it. So what do you suggest? Someone asked. Mara leaned forward. We do what we always do when no one believes in us. The room waited. We keep working. That idea spread slowly, but once it took hold, it was impossible to stop. Earth would not protest. Earth would not beg. Earth would not demand entry. Instead, humanity would continue doing what it had always done best: solve problems, build systems, and survive. The Concord expected fear or anger. It expected noise. It got silence. In the months that followed, human research did not slow down. It accelerated. Energy projects once blocked by politics found new support. Medical data was shared across borders. Climate systems were repaired instead of argued over. Old rivalries softened, not out of love, but out of shared understanding. If the galaxy was watching, humanity would not give it a show. it would give it results. On orbital stations above Earth, engineers tested new drives that bent space just enough to cut travel time between stars. They failed often, sometimes violently. Each failure was logged, studied, and improved on the ground. Linguists and mathematicians studied the Concorde's language structures, not to reply, but to understand how alien minds organized thought. The differences were vast. Where humans embraced exceptions, the Concorde favored balance. Where humans layered meaning with emotion, the Concorde favored clean logic. Humanity was messy, and it worked. Far from Earth, deep within Concorde space, automated observers continued their quiet monitoring. They noted humanity's activity with mild curiosity. The species was still marked as non-participant. No rule was broken. No threat detected. They did not notice the change in pace. They did not understand the meaning of human silence. On Earth, a child in a classroom asked a simple question after learning about the Concorde. Why don't they want us? The teacher paused, then answered honestly, because they don't know us yet. The child nodded, satisfied. Across the planet, similar thoughts took root. Humanity had been judged once, based on incomplete data. That had happened before, many times. Even within their own world, every time they had adapted. Every time. They had surprised those who underestimated them. The stars were no different, and somewhere beyond the edge of human space, the Galactic Concorde continued its endless meetings. Unaware that the quiet world it had dismissed had already begun preparing not for war, not for revenge, but for something far more dangerous relevance, the decision to stay silent confused many people. Outside Earth, inside human space, silence did not mean rest. After the discovery of the Galactic Concorde, every major nation reviewed its priorities. Old plans were reopened. Old ideas, once called impossible or too costly, were studied again. The question was no longer about pride. It was about survival in a larger universe. Humanity had learned something important. It was not alone. And it was not special. That knowledge sharpened focus. Research stations multiplied across Earth's orbit and beyond. They were not grand or beautiful. They were practical. Each one had backups for its backups. Every system could fail and still keep working. That was a human habit. Other species in the Concorde built perfect systems that rarely broke. Humans built systems that expected to break. On Mars, a team of engineers tested a new energy network that linked solar arrays, fusion cores, and old nuclear plants into one shared system. When one part failed, another took over. When two failed, a third adapted. Nothing elegant. Everything effective. The project failed 12 times. On the 13th test, it worked in the outer system. Human ships pushed their engines beyond safe limits. Not because they wanted speed, but because they wanted to know where the limits truly were. Data was shared freely between nations and corporations. There were arguments, but less secrecy than before. Fear had done what treaties never could. On Earth, doctors shared medical research across borders that once refused cooperation. Diseases were studied as shared enemies. Treatments were tested faster, improved faster, and distributed faster. No one announced these changes. They simply happened, deep inside the Galactic Concorde. Observers continued to record humanity's progress. The reports were routine. Humans advanced quickly, but not unusually so. Many young species did. What the reports did not capture was how humans learned. Other civilizations followed clean paths of progress, step by step. Failure was rare and avoided. Humans failed constantly, and remembered every failure in one Concorde archive. An analyst named Seville reviewed Earth's data streams. Seville was not a leader, just a minor observer assigned to developing worlds. Humanity was one of dozens at first. Earth was unremarkable. Then Seville noticed something strange. Human projects overlapped in ways that made little sense. Technologies built for one purpose were reused for others. Civilian tools became scientific tools. Entertainment systems became training simulations. Military designs became rescue platforms. Nothing was wasted. Seville compared this to other species. Most built one solution for one problem. Humans built many solutions and reused them until something worked. It was inefficient. It was powerful. Seville flagged the observation for review. The flag was ignored back on Earth. The first quiet breakthrough arrived without celebration. A human probe reached a nearby star system faster than expected. Not by breaking known laws, but by bending assumptions. Engineers accepted the small risks that others would never allow. The probe arrived damaged. It arrived alive. The data it sent back changed navigation. Models across human space. Travel times dropped. Supply routes expanded. Colonies once barely connected became stable. Still, no message was sent to the Concorde. Humanity watched and waited. Public reaction shifted slowly. At first, people felt rejected, then curious, then determined. Stories changed. Movies, books, and lessons stopped asking if humans belonged among the stars. They began asking what humans could offer. Children grew up knowing. They were not invited, and they planned anyway in a coastal city. A teacher showed students a simple chart of the Concorde's values. Stability, balance, order, those are not bad things, teacher said. A student raised a hand. What are ours? The class thought, then someone answered, trying again. Across Earth, similar answers appeared, trying again, improving, adapting, helping even when it costs. In Concorde space, trade routes shifted. Minor species complained quietly about restrictions and slow approvals. The Concorde was careful, but rigid. Rules protected peace, but they also slowed growth. Human space had no such rules. Anyone could approach. Anyone could trade. No one noticed at first. A small merchant ship from a non-member world docked at a human station near Jupiter. The crew expected trouble. They found open markets, no demands, no hidden fees, just clear agreements and shared risk. The ship returned home with stories. Others followed. Earth did not announce open access. It simply did not refuse. Back in the Concorde, Seville saw traffic patterns change. Ships detoured toward human space. Nothing illegal. Nothing dramatic, just choice. Seville filed another report. This one reached a supervisor. The response was calm. Humanity was still marked as unstable. Trade outside Concorde oversight was considered risky. The situation would correct itself. Seville was not convinced. Humans did not correct themselves. They adapted around problems until the problem no longer mattered. On Earth, leaders met again. This time, there was less fear in the room. More confidence. They reviewed data, not emotions. Human systems were improving faster than expected. Cooperation was rising. Conflicts still existed, but they ended sooner. The presence of a larger universe had changed priorities. Petty. Arguments felt smaller under a sky filled with civilizations that had already judged. One leader asked the question many were thinking, when do we speak? Silence followed. Then another leader answered, when we have something worth saying. Months passed. Human infrastructure grew outward like roots. Not neat, not symmetrical, but strong in Concorde archives. The word volatile remained attached to humanity, yet the data told a different story. Humans were not becoming calmer. They were becoming better. And somewhere in the vast network of alien systems, a quiet truth began to form, unnoticed and unrecorded. The species that failed the most was also the one that learned the fastest, and it was learning how to live in a galaxy that never wanted it. The message was prepared for weeks. But no one called it a speech. It was not meant to impress. It was meant to be understood. On Earth, teams worked across time zones to shape the announcement. Linguists checked every word. Engineers checked every signal path. Psychologists studied how different minds might hear the same sentence. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was hidden. Humanity had waited long enough. The Galactic Concord did not expect anything from Earth. The silence had been easy to explain. Developing worlds often stayed quiet when they learned their place. They focused inward. They accepted limits. Earth did not accept limits. When the signal finally left human space, it did not force its way through Concord systems. It used open frequencies, old trade channels, shared scientific bands meant for neutral exchange. It was polite. It was impossible to ignore, across thousands of worlds. Translators paused as a new signal appeared. It did not demand priority. It did not interrupt. It waited its turn, like a guest who knew how crowded the room was. Then it spoke. "This is Earth," the message began. Simple words. No titles, no claims of importance. "We know about the Galactic Concord. We understand your choice to exclude us." In Concord halls, many listeners felt a ripple of surprise. The message did not carry anger. It did not carry fear. It carried calm. "We are not asking for membership," the message continued. "We are not asking for approval." Some listeners leaned closer. "We are making an announcement." On Earth, people watched the broadcast in silence. There were no cheering crowds. No flags, no music. Just quiet attention. "We are opening all human systems to free and equal exchange," the message said. Trade, research, travel, medical aid, shelter. The words were clear. No species will be excluded based on Concord status. No species will be turned away for political balance. In the Concord, alarms did not sound. No rule was broken, but something shifted. "We believe cooperation works best when it is chosen," the message said, not assigned. Data followed the words. Maps of human space, access protocols, safety standards, shared research libraries, emergency response plans. Everything was open. "We will not interfere with Concord law," the message continued. "We will not challenge your authority. We will not claim territory beyond what we can support." Pause. "But we will build. We will share. And we will welcome those who wish to work with us." The final line was simple. "This announcement is open to all." And the signal ended. No demands, no threats, no waiting for an answer. Across the galaxy, reactions spread unevenly. In major Concord worlds, leaders met behind closed doors. The announcement was discussed in careful tones. Humanity had not broken rules, but it had bent expectations. Open access was rare, dangerous. Some said, irresponsible. Others agreed. But in smaller systems, the message landed differently. A research group locked out of Concord funding saw possibility. A trade guild tired of slow approvals saw speed. A species marked as culturally unstable saw respect. Human space became a topic of quiet conversation. Back on Earth, the work did not stop after the announcement. Ports were expanded. Translation systems were improved. Emergency teams trained for alien biology. Not because visitors had arrived yet, but because they would. Humans planned for arrival. The first ship came sooner than expected. It was small and damaged, drifting near the edge of human space. Its engines were failing. Life support was unstable. Human sensors picked it up. Within minutes, there was no debate. Rescue ships launched. The crew was unlike anything humans had seen. Fragile bodies, thin limbs, breathing gases mixed differently than Earth air. Medical teams adapted on the fly, changing pressure, temperature, and atmosphere until the visitors stabilize. No questions were asked until lives were safe. The rescued crew belonged to a species that had never been granted Concord membership. Too few, too weak, too dependent. They had heard the announcement. They had believed it. Word spread. More ships arrived. Some for trade. Some for help. Some just to see if the rumors were true. Human stations grew crowded. Mistakes happened. Systems failed. Languages confused meaning. Food supplies ran low more than once. Humans adapted. They added modules, built temporary habitats, printed tools overnight, learned alien needs by trial and error. Visitors noticed something strange. Humans argued. They disagreed loudly. They changed plans mid-sentence. They questioned their own leaders in public, but when something broke, they fixed it together. In Concord space, Seville watched the data streams with growing concern. Traffic into human space was no longer a trickle. It was a flow, still legal, still optional, still dangerous to ignore. Cell requested a formal review, this time. It was granted in the review chamber. Analysts studied human patterns. They saw inefficiency, risk, emotional decision-making. They also saw growth. Human. Trade hubs outperformed Concord stations in response time. Human medical teams handled more species per cycle than any standard facility. Human conflict resolution protocols reduced violence faster, not by force, but by involvement. Humans did not isolate problems. They absorbed them. One senior analyst asked a quiet question. Why are they doing this? No one answered. On Earth, leaders watched the same data from a different view. They saw strain. Resources stretched thin. Systems pushed hard. They did not stop. Helping others was not charity. It was practice. The galaxy was large. Humans needed to learn fast. In a busy station corridor, a human engineer spoke with an alien trader using a rough shared language. You didn't have to let us in, the trader said. The engineer shrugged. Someone let us fail until we learned. Figured we'd pass that on. The trader did not understand fully, but they felt the meaning. Back in the Concord, discussions grew tense. Humanity was creating a parallel network, not in opposition, but alongside. A system based on choice instead of permission. It was uncomfortable. It worked. Some Concord members quietly used human channels while publicly supporting restrictions. Others argued for engagement. A few warned that humanity was moving too fast. None suggested force. Humanity had not given them a reason. Weeks turned into months. Human space became known for one thing above all: if you came with a problem, humans would try. They might fail. They would try again. In one distant system, a Concord diplomat watched a human station from afar. Ships of many shapes moved in and out. No symbols of dominance, no enforced order, just movement. The diplomat recorded a private note. Humanity does not wait to be ready, the note said. They become ready by acting. Back on Earth, children followed the news with wide eyes. Aliens were no longer stories. They were visitors. Teachers struggled to keep lessons simple as reality grew complex. One child asked, "Are they our friends?" The teacher answered carefully, "They are people." That was enough. In the vast systems of the Galactic Concord, something rare was happening. The rules were still the same, but the galaxy was changing anyway, and humanity, once excluded and quiet, had become a voice not through demand, but through action. The announcement had done what no protest ever could. It had made Earth impossible to ignore. The change did not arrive as a single event. It arrived as pressure. At first, the Galactic Concord tried to ignore human space. Official reports still used the old labels: developing, volatile, non-participant. But the data no longer fit the words. Trade that once flowed only through Concord hubs now curved toward Earth and its stations. Research that once waited years for approval now happened in weeks through human channels. Medical emergencies that would have taken long petitions were solved by simple requests sent to human responders. Nothing about this broke Concord law. That was the problem inside Concord chambers. Leaders argued with careful voices. They were used to stability. They were used to slow change. The Concord had survived because it controlled pace. Humanity did not control pace. It accepted it. A senior delegate from a core world spoke during one closed session. They are reckless, the delegate said. They take risks we banned long ago, another delegate replied. Yet their failure rate is lower than expected. A third added, and when they fail, the damage spreads less. Silence followed. Humans did not isolate risk. They shared it. Outside official halls, the effect was stronger. Smaller species began to shift their loyalties quietly and carefully. They did not leave the Concord. They simply used human space as a second option. Choice changed everything. In one border system, farming world faced a soil collapse that would destroy its food supply. Concord aid would take months. A request sent to human networks returned in hours. Human ships arrived in days. They did not bring a perfect solution. They brought tools, engineers, and time. They tested ideas directly in the soil. Some failed. Crops were lost, then one worked. The farming world survived. The report spread in Concord records. The incident was logged as external assistance among living beings. It was remembered as the humans helped. On Earth, the strain grew heavier. Ports were full. Resources were tight. Human leaders knew this pace could not last forever. They chose to keep going anyway. This was not charity, this was investment. Humans learned more from every interaction than they lost in resources. Alien biology pushed medical science forward. Alien physics challenged human assumptions. Alien cultures forced humans to face their own flaws. Conflicts happened. Misunderstandings turned into arguments. Arguments turned into shouting. Once, a trade dispute nearly became violence. Human mediators stepped in. They did not claim moral authority. They admitted fault when needed. They changed rules when rules failed. This confused many visitors. Most civilizations protected systems at all costs. Humans changed them in Concord space. Observer Savell was promoted. The data from human space could no longer be ignored. Savell now attended higher-level reviews. There, the tone was different. Less dismissal, more concern. They are becoming a center, one analyst said. Without permission, another replied. Savell spoke carefully. They are not competing. They are filling gaps we left. That idea unsettled the room. The Concord believed it had accounted for all needs. It had not. Months passed. Human stations expanded again. Modular rings were added. Temporary became permanent. What began as emergency housing turned into neighborhoods shared by many species. Humans did not segregate visitors by origin, they grouped by need. Families lived near schools. Workers near docks. The sick near hospitals. This was inefficient. It worked. Visitors noticed another strange thing. Humans remembered names, not just species names. Individual names. Mistakes happened. Pronunciations failed. Humans apologized. They tried again. On one crowded station, Concord official arrived openly for the first time. No escort, no announcement. Just observation. The official walked through markets where dozens of species traded freely. No central control. No visible enforcement. Disputes were handled by shared panels. Humans sat beside aliens. Decisions were slow, but accepted. The official recorded everything. Back in Concord space. Pressure grew. Member worlds complained that talent was leaving. Researchers asked for access to human data. Merchants wanted fewer restrictions. The Concord responded, as it always had. With caution, new rules were proposed. Reviews scheduled. Committees formed. Humanity did not wait. Another crisis came. A major Concord relay failed near a dense cluster of systems. Communication collapsed. Panic spread. The Concord prepared a controlled response. Human networks detected the failure and acted. Human ships rerouted power. Human engineers bridged signals using experimental systems. The fix was unstable. It worked communication. Returned before the Concord response. Arrived, official reports called it unexpected. Assistance. Unofficial messages said something else. They saved us. Phrase reached Concord leadership. The words were, Uncomfortable, saving implied need. Need implied weakness on Earth. Leaders knew this moment would come. Quiet meetings were held. The question was not whether the Concorde would respond, it was how some advised slowing down, reducing access, protecting human systems. Others disagreed. "We stop now," one leader said. "And we proved them right," the work continued. Human space was no longer quiet. It was alive. Children on Earth grew up seeing alien faces on screens as normal. Schools adapted lessons. Language programs expanded. Cultural mistakes were common, so were corrections. Human identity shifted. They were no longer just a planet. They were a crossroads. In the Concorde, Savell attended a historic session. For the first time in centuries, the question was asked openly, what if exclusion was an error? The room reacted strongly. Some rejected the idea at once. The Concorde had always been right. Stability proved it. Others hesitated. Stability, they realized, was changing. Seville presented data. Not arguments, just patterns. Human-assisted systems recovered faster. Human trade routes adapted quicker. Human conflict zones calmed sooner. They are not peaceful, Seville said. They are persistent. The session ended without resolution. But something had shifted. Outside official channels, contact increased. Concorde members began sending observers openly. Some offered quiet cooperation. Humanity accepted all. No favoritism. No demands. On a distant station, human doctor treated an alien child injured in a transport failure. The biology was unfamiliar. The tools were wrong. The doctor tried anyway. The child lived. Parent wept in a way humans understood. That moment never entered any report. But it mattered. The Galactic Concorde had built peace through control. Humanity built trust through action. The difference spread by the end of the cycle. It was clear to anyone watching closely. Humanity was no longer a developing species. It was infrastructure. And the galaxy had begun to rely on it. The offer arrived without ceremony. It did not come as a broadcast to the galaxy. It did not come with apology songs or formal symbols. It arrived as a sealed message, delivered through the same open channels humanity had used months earlier. The Galactic Concorde had made a decision. On Earth, leaders gathered again. The room was familiar now. Screens showed data from hundreds of systems. Human space was busy, strained, alive. Ships moved constantly. Requests never stopped. The message was opened. The words were careful. The Galactic Concorde recognizes that prior assessment of humanity was incomplete. No one reacted. We invite Earth to accept full membership status, including a permanent seat within Concorde governance. Terms have been adjusted to reflect humanity's unique development. The room remained silent. There it was. The thing humanity had once imagined as a dream. A seat. Recognition, belonging. The message continued. Shared defense guarantees. Trade priority. Influence over law. Protection. Everything Earth had been denied, now offered. Some leaders felt relief. Some felt pride. Others felt something colder, suspicion. They asked for time. The Concorde granted it. Across Earth, the news spread fast. People argued. Some celebrated. Others questioned motives. Artists painted stars with open doors. Commentators spoke of history being made, but there was no single emotion. Humanity had changed. They no longer asked one question. They asked many. What would membership cost? Who would be excluded then? What rules would change? And who would humanity become? On a human station far from Earth, an alien trader watched the news beside a human mechanic. The trader spoke first. If you join, the trader said, will you close your ports? The mechanic did not answer right away. I don't know, the mechanic said, but I hope not. That question spread. Visitors worried. Smaller species watched closely. Human space had become a refuge, a tool, a chance. Would that end? In Concord space, Seville waited. Seville had argued quietly for engagement. Now the results sat heavy. Membership would solve many problems. It would also erase something rare on Earth. The leaders met again, this time without cameras. They reviewed outcomes, projections, risks. One leader spoke plainly. If we accept, they said, we gain power, another replied, and lose trust. Third added, we become gatekeepers. That word lingered, gatekeepers. Humans knew that role well. They had lived. Under it, the debate lasted days. Then Mara Levin spoke again. She was older, now tired but steady. They judged us once, she said. They were wrong. Not because they were cruel, but because they were careful. She looked around the room. We became useful because we acted without permission, she continued. If we accept a seat that requires us to act with permission, we change what made us matter. Silence followed. What do you suggest? Someone asked. Mara answered. We don't say no, she said. We say not yet. The response was drafted carefully. When it was sent, it traveled the same open channels as before. It was brief. Earth thanks the Galactic Concord for its offer. The message said, we accept cooperation, shared defense, and mutual aid. A pause. We decline permanent membership at this time. In Concord halls. Confusion rippled. We request observer status, the message continued. With open access to discussion, without binding authority over our systems. Another pause. We will continue open exchange with all species. This is not negotiable. The message ended. No. Insult, no challenge, just clarity the Concord had not prepared for. This observer status was rare, temporary, often. Symbolic humanity asked for it, openly, and tied it to conditions. Inside Concord leadership, arguments erupted. Some saw risk. Others saw relief. Humanity inside the system, but not controlling it. Seville spoke one last time during the final session. They do not want to rule, Seville said. They want to remain necessary. That statement ended the debate. The Concord accepted. Announcement followed days later. Humanity was recognized. As a sovereign interstellar power, humanity would attend Concord. Sessions. Humanity would not enforce Concord. Law. Humanity would not restrict. Access. The galaxy reacted. Some celebrated. Some worried. Some adjusted plans. Life continued. On Earth there were no parades. People returned to work. Ships launched. Stations expanded. The work did not slow. Human space remained. Crowded. Problems continued. Failures continued. So did attempts. In a Concord chamber, human observers sat quietly. They listened more than they spoke. When they spoke, they asked questions. Why does this rule exist? Who does it help? Who does it block? These questions were uncomfortable. They were also useful. Outside official halls, cooperation deepened. Concord members used human rapid response teams. Humans used Concord archives. Knowledge flowed both ways. No one controlled it. On a distant station, the same alien child from months before walked again, healed. The human doctor watched from across the room, tired and satisfied. No record was made. It still mattered. Children on Earth learned new maps. Not of borders, but of connections. Teachers spoke of the Concord as neighbors, not judges. The story of exclusion became a lesson, not about anger, about response. In Concord records, humanity's status was updated, the old labels were removed, a new note was added, adaptive, cooperative, persistent, far beyond Earth. Species spoke of humans with a strange mix of respect and confusion. They do not wait to be allowed, one said. They build places. You do not want to lose, said another. The galaxy. Adjusted, slowly, reluctantly. Inevitably, humanity never became rulers of the Stars? They became something harder to replace. A bridge, a backup, a second chance. They had been excluded once. They answered by becoming essential, and the universe remembered.